in a market like this, you have to be all in to produce. You can't do it part-time. I do it part-time and on a by choice basis because I've been doing this for 20 years. My clients call or their family members call and they say, "Hey, will you help us?" And it's more like that, but you have to start out somewhere and you have to have that ground base of what we talked about, the market knowledge, a passion for the homes and the negotiations and the contracts and good communication skills.
Welcome back to another episode of High Value Discussions, where we bring you insights from entrepreneurs, business owners, and industry leaders. In this episode, I am honored to host the president of Steinbeck Real Estate and Steinbeck Mortgage. My guest has over 18 years of experience, and she has built one of the most trusted, award-winning real estate firms in Monterey County. She holds many awards and is a highly respected community leader, serving on multiple boards, mentoring young professionals, and making a real impact in the real estate industry. Her career wasn't built on just great transactions. Her career was built on trust, leadership, and an uncommon drive to help others succeed. In this episode, she is breaking down the real estate market, sharing her business insights, and revealing what it takes to build a powerful, independent brand in a competitive industry. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Angela Savage.
I've always been kind of like a dramatic person. I liked musical theater and things like that, like the drama, right? It's great. So it's been tough to control that instead of being like proactive instead of reactive. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do now. And I really kind of more so than try to jump in and give someone an opinion. I listen a lot. I watch body movements, body language. And the tone of people's voices. And I've learned to become more empathetic. A lot of the situations that we deal with now, they're challenging. And I think we get a lot of the challenging transactions or life experiences from folks is because we know how to handle it with empathy, kindness. And sometimes you have to take your time. You can't be a pushy salesperson in certain situations. You have to let it flow. There's probate transactions, a lot of trust sales where people have passed. There is a process with that you cannot change or speed up. Yeah. So I feel like that has been, just the folks that walk through the door and we're going, wow, these are tough. These are difficult conversations. They take months, years to get it worked through. But we're attracting those because we care. At the end of the day, we're all salespeople, and it's our job to close that transaction. But I think it's the approach that we take too.
I know for a fact that you guys prioritize relationships over transactions, even though obviously sales is a big priority. But creating relationships when it comes to clients, it leaves a significant mark on somebody, and therefore that builds trust.
In the business, I was pretty confident because I had worked every role, administrator, marketing, working with agents, executive assistant. I knew how to run an office before I even chose to get licensed. And then when I got licensed, at the time I was doing house flipping just as like my hobby, extra income. So I went into the role of buying and selling several homes. I owned my own home or two by then. So I had a few sales personally under my belt before I started selling. I think that's important. There is also with real estate, you take some courses, you pass a test, but there's not a prerequisite that you had to have bought or sold a home or sat in a title company or, signed a loan or anything like that. So I was confident and I had the transactions. However, I was 22 years old doing short sales for folks that were twice, 3 times my age. But we learned it. So the other aspect of that was education. You get education. Yes, it's book smart, but it helps. Yeah. education, designation, certifications. The first year out, went hard on that. And also, I hired a coach. Your broker is your broker. Your office manager is your office manager. I had always been in sales, retail sales, commission only, right? So it was already set. I knew I had to perform to make money, but I hired a coach. It was on my credit card. It was like every month I was like, am I going to be able to afford this? But in the end, it paid off. I mean, back then it was like $13,000 a year. It seems like so much, right? Monthly, you break it down. But that paid off, and the confidence came from that knowledge. Everyone has to start out with their first sale. But if you go into it totally prepared, you'll win against some of the top people, and you know your numbers. There's like a quote out there, and I don't think I'll say it exactly right, but the preparation, someone who has preparation will always win against someone who has that experience when the experienced person isn't prepared. So in changing markets, okay, we never thought that. It's like basically I got licensed and the next day the market crashed. It's called the Great Recession. So you have to just constantly adapt to what's happening. The banks didn't know what was happening. No one knew, but we had to start. We did one of the first short sales in Monterey County. It took 6 months, maybe longer. And then we got better at it. The next one. It was hard. Some of them did, you try to avoid foreclosure, but some of them did end up foreclosing, unfortunately. But when the clients hired us and said, we know you know what you're doing and we trust you, right? Like you said, the trust has to be there. We can do our job so much better. So if you're hiring me today and instead of going, ooh, I don't know, or did you do that? Did you do this? I'm on it. Trust me, I got this. But if I'm on the phone with you talking about what you want me to do, I'm not doing the other thing. So the trust is like a huge component. That's for, in business, from the business aspect. And eventually you get to a position in your career where you can pick and choose the client. So if they don't have the relationship that you think will work into a successful transaction, you don't have to work together, and that's okay. I've passed people on all the time to other agents that I think will adapt to their personality better. Not everyone's for everyone.
And also going within that too, like you said, you had a full phase of sales, right? And in that word sales, there's also a lot of rejection. How did you handle rejection? In the very beginning, especially.
Well, it went hand in hand with the coach, and they prepare you for that. It's tough. I mean, to this day, we get doors slammed in our faces, all sorts of things. You move on. I mean, honestly, that's all it is. You take it, you keep your calm, right? You don't burn their bridge. Maybe they're not ready for this conversation now, but 2-3 months down the road, they could call back. You could have a positive experience. And because you kept your calm and moved on, a lot of those folks, they do come up. So it's not like a dead deal if someone says no the first time. Actually, the stats are like, they're going to say no for 7 times. You'll get them on the 8th.
When you got rejected, did it ever get to you? Like, did it ever make you emotional? And did you ever question yourself while you were in the beginning phases?
No, because I feel like maybe my pitch wasn't strong enough. So if there's a question about my service, my value, my commission, then I wasn't strong enough in my presentation. Then I go back to the script, I throw on, and now it is podcast. You could hear it. You look at it on YouTube. Ours was like a piece of paper, and like these weird little note cards. But I got to tell you, that works. It's right. Anyways, no, that just means your presentation wasn't strong enough. And I see it all the time. I also do see certain scenarios where there is a no and someone reacts, right? It's that reaction instead of the proactive move. And now they will never work with that client. That client might have something bad to say to them in the public. Because we're an independent and we're local, we're not under a big brand. The client experience is number one for us. And like you said with your mom, his mom is Catalina Perez. She's a award-winning mortgage loan originator woman.
Amen.
And she works for Steinbeck Mortgage here, independent wholesale mortgage company. She's fabulous.
It's a free ad right there.
But my point is, she doesn't need an ad. It's referral. People walk in, she doesn't know they've been referred by family members. Doesn't need any sort of marketing. You can, yes, but it's word of mouth. They're walking in, they know she's going to be here because she's consistent. And if not, they know they can get her. She picks up her phone. Even if it's, hey, in a meeting right now, call you back. She'll call you back. She gets it done, and people trust that. And that's it. It's that relationship. It's passed on through their family, their coworkers.
When it comes to even you, do you prioritize that as well when it comes to being efficient and bringing speed to the table?
Yeah, so as a sales agent, so I have a different role where I don't do sales full time anymore because I manage the company and I'm the owner and there's other things that come into play. But if I'm handing an agent a lead, their max time to respond is 15 minutes. If they don't get a next lead. That's too long. And that's the expectation. Do you want to know what the new expectation now is? And it sounds crazy. I've been doing one-on-ones with the agents. And it's great. We're setting goals. We're, loving it, kind of talking about a plan, one-on-one, numbers. And I said to a newer person, because it's happened to me, I get to choose, my clients that I work with, and I have 3 great buyers that are a priority. And they have all individually said in the last couple weeks and over time, I need you to know when the houses are coming on the market before they come on the market. Which at the time I go, yeah, I got it. I'm on it. And I do that. But for a new person, I'm in a one-on-one telling them, oh, hey, so you need to know all the homes that come on the market before they come on the market. And they're going, I don't even know where to, they're not even used to knowing them and seeing them the first day. So the speed is everything.
You and I talked about how difficult and challenging it is to bring in the right people because a team is everything. If you want to build something great in any venture or any industry, you need a village. And that is hard. That is difficult in itself. So with you have had this brokerage for a long time. And then obviously you've had so many people come through this door. But what is your whole mindset and your whole process on bringing people in here?
It could be different in the way where would be better off at bringing in income, but that's not what we are. We're not your typical quantity over quality. We're quality over quantity. And it doesn't mean specifically in production. It's the type of person. So the type of person has to match our mindset and our energy, which is community-based. Yeah. I do like a top producer to come in, but it's more of, it's not what your typical person going in to have a profitable company would say, but it's the way I am. And honestly, I've let go of top producers just because there might have been something that was borderline, pushing the boundaries of what their license allows into another profession, whether they're getting close to like what a CPA does, insurance agent, mortgage loan originators, that's a separate license. And that's hard. That's the hardest part, really, because I've trained them. They work the files like I want them to. We talk every day. So this is someone I'm talking to every day. And if there isn't a change in the behavior for us, I have to let it go, because at the end of the day, if there is a mistake, that falls back on me and everyone else on the team. Yeah. So you have to be very careful with who you hire. I've taken it almost to a degree that is a little extreme. But at the end of the day, with expanding and having now 2 offices, I'm there and I'm here. I have to have a team in either place that I can trust is making the right decisions, is kind, and like we said, empathetic. Mm-hmm. They're making their calls, setting their goals, and communicating with me the results of those. Yeah. If I don't have those things, and that's kind of a lot, it doesn't work.
Even going within that, what would be more difficult? I've been thinking about this for myself. What would be harder, hiring or firing?
It's firing. I honestly, it's the hardest part. And I was talking to another broker, and he said, "Is there something in the business that you don't like?" I love it. Bring it on. The question when they have questions, I love it. That means they're out there talking to folks. When it's like, "Hey, this part in the contract, let's look at it." Yeah. Or I know I could tell them, "Let's rewrite it." Anything about homes and contracts and things like that, I love it. But the hard part is letting people go that are good people, that are producers, for things like that. Yeah. There's another side of it where you have good people who just can't put in the time or the energy, or they don't have that passion. And in a market like this, you have to be all in to produce. You can't do it part-time. I do it part-time and on a by choice basis because I've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. My clients call or their family members call and they say, "Hey, will you help us?" Yeah. And it's more like that, but you have to start out somewhere, and you have to have that ground base of what we talked about, the market knowledge, a passion for the homes and the negotiations and the contracts and good communication skills. It's the toughest part. I lost my administrator who I had trained right around Thanksgiving. So it was at an event, a very important event that we were all going to. For one of my agents accepted a leadership role for the Women's Council of Realtors president. So I was getting ready to go to that event, and that's when she told me she was recruited by another brokerage. And this other brokerage recruited her because I trained her, I got her license, I had her set up with everything we do on the file. They don't want to take the time to do that, so they come in that way. And it happens with agents too. But if someone is recruitable in the sense of they don't see the value here and they have one foot out the door, then it's kind of the same thing with a strong team. Just go. Yeah. Instead of maybe talking about it with others, distracting them from what they want to do, that energy can just move on. And it's okay. It happens. It's a very, there is a lot of movement because everyone at the end of the day is an independent contractor.
Is that kind of stepping out of line when it comes to another brokerage, almost like stepping foot in this area and kind of speaking to one of the people that are under you and recruiting them? Is that kind of stepping out of line? I mean, I get it. Competition is so great, but it's very interesting and it's kind of dirty.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And it's constant too. That's another thing, like you were saying, like the rejection and how does that happen? There is that. So you have brokers or owners that don't want to put in the time with the coaching, the training, and working with their agents directly. So they will come in and try to pull one. The interesting thing too, like we have awards coming up, and I award the top folks that have worked so hard over the years. Many things have happened to get to this position, and brokers will see that advertisement or media and they go, "Oop, we're calling that one." So it's tough. I know because they tell me, but it's not the way. I did have a verbal agreement with that broker because we have kind of similar styles where we're like, we attract who is out there, do interviews and see if they're a right fit. They hire everyone. I'm hiring 1 in 5. Yeah. So, I mean, actually recently it's probably less than that.
But it's kind of funny when other brokerages are actually looking under your brokerage and almost picking and choosing and kind of like, let's try to throw our jab right in there. But it's interesting, right? Do you kind of see that as like how do you feel during that? Because I like a good jab. I like a good little threat. So I'm like, oh, that's cute. Like, what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? It's fun to be challenged. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like that.
I mean, is it flattering, right? There's a lot of things we've done in marketing too, where then someone will tell me, hey, they did exactly what you did. I'm like, that's fine. Yeah. They can copy what we did a couple weeks ago, but we're going to keep progressing. Yeah. This is changing. You don't know what we're going to do next. You don't know what we're going to do in an hour from now. It's going to be nuts.
See, that makes you guys stand out, right? So I was telling you off air how I was raised in whatever I was going to do with my life is to stand out. So there are things when it comes to being a brokerage or being a broker and having the people under you, it's almost like, hey guys, we need to stand out. And I love how you guys are very big community based. And that makes you guys stand out. Why? Because everybody knows your name. So that's very, very important. And for you, you see all these other brokers around you, competition. You see all these other agents around you, competition. All these other people around, competition. Great. How do you guys stand out and what do you guys focus on to stand out?
Every month we have a community service event. It's just happened naturally because we are so involved in Rotary, different board positions throughout and over the years, right? So we've just kind of naturally done it. And you know what? If another brokerage sees that we do something like a clothing drive, we're doing a shoe drive right now. We need children's shoes. They could drop off at either office, Downtown Salinas or Toro Park. Yeah. For the Alisal Resource Center, we need children's shoes of all sizes new, and it goes to foster and homeless children in their district. That's just this month. They'll be ongoing. But that's what we do here. Every month. Some of the projects are big, some are kind of small, private, local. All of them give back. But if another brokerage sees that and goes, hey, we should do a community event, a fundraiser, a toy drive, whatever it is, good. I hope that rubs off on them. I grew up in a Rotary family, right? So I was a child going to Rotary meetings. I'm in Rotary now. I'm the sergeant at arms, and then in my former group, I was membership director, so recruiting for Rotary. It was always service above self. That stands with you forever. And I've seen such great things come from the club. And it is changing in a sense where our presidents are younger. There's a lot more female representation. Our whole board is almost female at this point. They just allowed women in like the late 1980s. I think it was 1989 they allowed women to be a part of the Rotary Club. So we're in there changing things. Yeah. It's taken years. I mean, 89, that wasn't that long ago. But growing up with that and always giving back, getting up early to do kind of things like that, it doesn't go away. Yeah. And it's second nature. You don't have to think, what are we going to do next? Now, nonprofits are approaching us because they know we'll take it, we'll put everything into it, we'll put an event around it, and we'll get it done. Yeah. And then we'll move on. Sometimes there's multiple going on at the same time. Our Sun Street Center clothing drive was supposed to be for a month. It went on the entire summer because there's a need, first of all. Oh. And second, folks just kept bringing things in. And so we expanded that. Yeah. And that's for folks in recovery when they go out to interview for jobs. Yeah. We all have a ton of extra work clothes hanging around. It's such a collaborative environment that we get excited about. And we're office workers. We're in because that energy, it builds. And there's days where I get low, I go dark. I'm looking at the numbers, right? Last few years, it's been challenging with where interest rates are for everyone across the board. But the women here, they keep me motivated. They do. And the men too. They're great. But we have a very strong team. And then we're just constantly adapting. Yeah. So you're moving the bar, yes, but you're adapting to the market conditions. In any industry, it's like that too. Yeah. My dad was a roofer. And he was very kind of kept it, even. But I see even in that industry where it could have continued to progress. And every business has to adapt to market conditions. And it may not be what you want to do. It gets harder. It's tougher. You'll lose some folks to the market. The numbers are lower. The costs are higher. Are we motivated? The team keeps you together. That's why I show up. I know who's going to be here. I know what we're going to work on for the most part. And we put that fun in it. You put the community events in. You're not just here grinding it out all day. We're having fun. We're reaching out.
Are there any things that you do by yourself that you prioritize when it comes to raising your leadership skills? Because you do it very well when it comes to people. When you're in your group, that almost brings out the best in you, because you're like, oh, I have my people around here. This almost forces me, and it naturally puts me into leadership mode. But are there things when you're by yourself where things are kind of getting enhanced and then you've noticed it as well? I feel like even being a mother is a very, very big hack when it comes to raising your leadership skills, because you live two roles. And that's a very big responsibility, but it almost it continuously raises your stock.
I do have great mentors, and I call on them and they respond. But I actually, now I've realized, getting older, I prioritize rest when I'm alone and can rest. And it makes me more prepared for the next day, because we don't always get a day off every week. So even if it's just a few hours at the end of the day, I could go and do more education, things like that. When I'm home and it's late, I just have been turning it off. We are so accessible, which we talked about, but it wasn't always that way. There were times in the past, I remember with the agents when I worked in the company, and when it was later, people would realize, hey, that's family time. There's none of that anymore. But if you communicate that too with your clients, I'm available for you every day during the day. I pick up my daughter at this time, and I let them know, they respect that too. So I think you have to be clear in the communication with the boundaries for clients, and then also relationships too. And that's a hard part. I can't answer any questions for that because I don't have that figured out at all. The nice thing about this business is you could work all the time. You could get into it, workaholic, right? It's not healthy, but you make money.
As a leader and as being the broker, do you have a hard time shutting it off?
Yeah, it's always on. Shoot, I would love that. I envy people who have like one thought in their brain, like I'm going to the store and doing that.
Yeah.
No, I'm in the store, I'm plugged in, I'm talking to 5 people, texts going off. So it is good to take it down a notch so you can focus and be present in what you're doing. When your book's so solid, someone runs 5 minutes late, they start feeling you getting a little tense. So I am now trying to, and communicate that with folks too. I want to give you 100% of my time. I have this hour for this appointment, and it will have to be, instead of right now, I can prepare for it and have it ready and do my best work. Yeah. If I'm prepared and I took that moment, and then in that moment with them, you're 100% present.
Yeah.
And you hear what they really need, right? They'll tell you.
Yeah.
There's a series of questions we can ask, but you find out. And in those moments, a lot of that helps you understand the scenario of the transaction and what it'll take to make it work.
You need to almost be obsessed of what's going on a day-to-day basis, because things change so fast. And if you are not adapting, it'll almost destroy you. So how often are you guys even coming together and almost bringing in that education on how to adapt to the new markets?
Every day. We're doing different trainings in here every day. Our industry does have great resources where it's constant and it's daily. And the nice thing about the industry is there's no avenue or direction you have to go. So if you get licensed and you want to do commercial real estate, you can go all the way with that. Some folks do property management, not for me. Residential sales is where folks end up. If you're working with a buyer, the expectation is know what's coming before it's on. And that's what's so great about it. It does get frustrating when you are saying things like that. I think with any business too, is you have to know your inventory. If you're selling cars, you have to know your inventory. If someone walks in and says, hey, I saw a sign down the street, I have to have been in that home. Yeah. And the more clients you have that have these expectations of you, the better you get. I've got to tell you, I have a buyer who knows everything before it comes on the market in a certain area. Couple times he's seen a house before I did. That was the last of it. Yeah. I've seen every home out there, been in it. because I want to be prepared when he says, what do you think about that? And have the answer.
Yes.
Not everyone has that mindset. We have it. And we're constantly reading and learning and getting better. I don't think everyone has that, and that's okay. So a big thing is what I had to learn is my passion or intensity for it is not what everyone has. Yeah. And it doesn't make them wrong. They could do very, very well. They could focus on a singular thing and get it done and do a good job. I think the toughest part is having a brain like that that's always thinking and adapting. But then it comes back to the team. So we could sit down and brainstorm, this is what I'm thinking, or did you notice this? Or I think we should do a little bit of promo for this. When you don't have that or you're working from home, I couldn't imagine. I'd just be in my head just, swirling.
What are probably some of the biggest mistakes today that people are making as brokers and as agents?
I think agents need to interview multiple brokers before they go to work with one. We're different in so many ways. Our business model is simple and clear and transparent. Others I've talked to are complicated. You might sign up and not understand what their fees are, or you'll know your split because that's one of the questions, but what comes after that, and then know what the expectations are too. I think that's good for even experienced agents switching. Brokers, everyone's different. I mean, I feel like they're doing what they can with, they're doing the best they can with the knowledge and information they have. And I do see local brokers seeking more leadership, training, other roles. And there's some, they do what they do, and we know we do it differently. But their clients expect that from them. They're consistent in it. And that's what they do. We're very confident in our service, as you can tell. So I don't think any brokers are doing anything wrong. In the past, there had been brokers that were definitely doing things wrong. I don't know of anyone. I think it's great. I collaborate with a lot of different brokers in the area. We're friends. Yeah. We chit chat, we exchange notes and kind of talk too. And having that relationship with the people we do business with is great. I don't feel like we have competition because we collaborate. Yeah. And you do when you're interviewing for, everyday real estate agents are interviewing, right? Because they're interviewing for a listing appointment, a buyer rep agreement, at least whatever they're doing, we're interviewing. So if you can't do a basic interview and have a strong presentation, it's going to be harder. So spend a little bit more time in making that presentation strong. And one of the important things too that goes along with the rejection is objection handling. So if you are good at handling objections, which are constant, and a lot of them are the same, they'll be the same if your presentation is lacking in a certain department. Mm-hmm. Objection handling answers their question honestly, truthfully, and gets them closer to where they need to go. And you're closing. You're closing for a contract or another appointment, whatever it may be.
I mean, what you've built and what you guys are doing on a constant basis it's being of use and it's being of service to others as well. But what are some of the biggest headaches that you deal with on a constant basis, and what gives you the most fulfillment on what you do?
That's such a great question. The headaches, I would say, are probably in the day-to-day. It comes with when the technology doesn't work. We were talking about my website went crazy last night. And the best part is when you have a transaction, whether it's difficult or pretty seamless, is at the end, having them a client satisfied, getting a good review. And I love giving an agent a check that they earned. And now more than ever, successful realtors, MLOs, they have to show their value. Yeah. And for us, the changes in the industry in the last year or so have been great because we know our value and we're good at interpreting that to a client. And we've always been that way. Now it gives us an opportunity to talk about it. Yeah. So we've done well with the changes, and I do believe that a lot of real estate agents are underpaid. It might not be a popular opinion. You get to see on the social media the closing or the just sold, things like that. It's not all that. We make it look easy on purpose, but that's also what we get paid for.
Yes.
Is keeping calm in these very dramatic sometimes situations. Not every transaction is a happy family moving up into their dream home. So a lot of it is making it look easy, but and that's what the public sees, and that's okay. It's gotten kind of crazy with all these shows where they're like, hey, Frederick made $120,000 on this, and it shows him talking for like 15 minutes. It's not like that. There's a lot. He has a team that's working behind the scenes. But I realize now, too, is I need to let my clients know, okay, I'm doing this for you, but then the transaction coordinator is doing this. The marketing person is doing this. Legal's on this. I will take care of this. Yeah. Staging, design, photography. Let's talk about it. And in the past, we just kind of did our thing, and we did make it look easy. Yes. And went in, went out, sold, and hey, anything going on? Oh, it's all good. Yeah. But now with a changing market, it's important to communicate the efforts that are going into it.
The changes within social media as well. You see realtors, you see brokerages, they are really targeting social media and using it to their advantage. So is there any way, or you guys, when you guys do have those meetings and those talks, where you guys want to implement different tactics when it comes to social media and doing a whole different system when it comes to marketing? What do those conversations look like?
It's always an idea, right? So there's an idea, but me, myself, and my skill set, I can't really produce that. So we hire the right people. Yeah. And we have the idea, and they kind of make it come to fruition, and it's beautiful. And sometimes there's little things that need tweaking, or you just kind of go with it. We're like, we'll be better next time. But yeah, it's all about it's so much of this is going back to having the right team. When
you see people on social media, do you find it cringe, or there's things that you see where you're like, guys, I think we need to implement this?
Okay, sometimes it's better not to do it at all, right? Yeah. Just hold back on that one. Rethink it.
I think doing the extra stuff like that is almost to provide value for the upcoming agents, for the upcoming brokers. It's almost to give value and pass that on to them when they're starting to like scratch and claw, like, man, what's a good resource for me to look at you? Oh my God, Steinbeck Mortgage. Have you guys seen their page? Like the amount of content they're putting out is phenomenal and it's beautiful. I think that is the priority when it comes to passing down content and value. That's the purpose. But like when it comes to somebody like you, like my mother, Steinbeck, it speaks for itself. The results speak for itself, and the community speaks for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we live it, right? Yeah. I do really love marketing properties, and with the homes and putting them on social media, it's great, and it's part of the exposure that we provide in the service. I have noticed that people like people. So when we have the agents in there and they're doing something, and they've been making videos in our prospecting perch and content creation corner. Yeah. They have, and it's fun, and that gets a lot of attraction and more views and things like that. But we do, if you look at the homes we've sold, and you go to the site and you go to sold, every home, no matter what it is, we're talking about a beautiful ranch house, something with acreage, land, commercial, industrial properties, all the way to mobile homes or your starter home, total fixer. We give every home the max exposure that we can. And even if it's going to be a small paycheck on a mobile home, we're still getting the professional photos. You're still going to get a beautiful description. It's going out just as much as any other property. So we like the properties and the service around those, the exposure, to be number one. And we are incorporating different ways of showing the homes with videos, presentations. I have someone flying a drone right now somewhere in the area, so we pull that in. I do like and really enjoy the marketing aspect of the homes, but that goes back to the inventory too. And we'll see listings pop up in our area where we're trying to get more exposure out there. Near our Toro Park office. It's, a smaller community. We're doing a great job. We see some homes pop up, and it is what it is. Yeah. It's not great. We know the homeowners could get a higher value because it's proven to work. We could go in, design, stage it, paint it, take some extra time to kind of make it look the best it can. And that's what we're hired to do, instead of just throwing it on the market how it is.
Going back to even technology, how has AI enhanced when it comes to providing information, doing research, doing, honestly, almost like an assistant, pretty much? Have you guys implemented AI into your business? Because they say if industries and corporations and businesses aren't incorporating AI into their whole systems.
And it's already in our system. So the programs that we have and provide from the company to the agents, the AI is already there. So they've all been updated. For processing files, right? Because we're totally paperless. For descriptions, it's all there. We're using it. It's part of the deal now. And then it does help like with some adjectives too, because we do write our property descriptions. You throw it in there, and there's so many times you could say great or spacious, things like that. It gives you some great adjectives. I love it. When it comes to knowing the numbers and knowing that inventory, it's an in-person deal. You have to go into the homes, knowing the numbers, pulling the stats in our system. You could get a breakdown too, and they're popping up everywhere. Like the information is in front of our face. You just have to take it in, right? It's constant, and it's all very accurate. The economic part of the real estate market is so interesting. It's like almost addictive.
When you do have an agent under you, and obviously you're providing mentorship and training, etc., sometimes people don't have people skills. So how does, you know what I mean? Like you either have it or you don't, but I believe that could be trained. Do you think it could be trained? And how does that work when somebody just doesn't have people skills, where you're like, man, you might need to pursue another industry?
They do. It's almost like a de-hiring of themselves. There's been situations where I'm uncomfortable in the conversation. And, I could adapt to anyone.
I've met a good handful of people in my lifetime where it's like, oh man, you just don't have the people skills.
We do have a script for every conversation. And then we were talking about the objection handling. That's scripted too. So I think the avenue that they would best pursue is following the scripts. But at some point you have to do it in person, right? So that could be the challenging part. It's all a test. Everything here is a test. Just so you know, everyone's being tested the whole time. Well, we hire with a 90-day provision. So there's different ways of testing folks. And I'm looking at their spreadsheets of how many calls they've made. They're communicating that. But I will call and, okay, it sounds kind of silly, but picking up is like the first part of it. Picking up the phone. Did they identify themselves professionally? And it's, hey, I'm thinking of selling my home. How do they react to that? And the scripts are simple, and they're just a guide to get you there. Now I have a variation of what the script entails, and they send you down a path that ultimately leads to a close. For an appointment or a contract being signed, but it also goes through, we're also qualifying clients on our end. They think they might be interviewing us, but we're making sure that they have the ability to sell the property. We're talking to the decision maker. Their motivation is there. They're realistic. I can market, get into the property. If not, it's going to go to the next agent that pulls it in. So we're interviewing to make sure at the end of that conversation that we are taking them on also.
So nobody is perfect, right? But there are certain traits that we admire when it comes to people. And since one of your roles is to bring people in here and people who are under you, what traits do you find very attractive into people that you're like, oh, I can work with this person very, very long term?
I think when they show up on time for an interview and they're prepared. And I do typically ask in a lot of different meetings, bring this piece of paper filled out. If they're able to fill it out, send it back to me electronically, or if they filled it out, brought it to me, and I now have it for my file. Being prepared for our meeting. And then in that interview, I do ask certain questions, but I do listen mostly. And there was a market like 2021, 2022, where it was, our interest rates were like 2%. Agents were coming in, it was very easy, didn't have to be trained. And that was also in about 20 years before that too. And agents were coming in saying, my motivation for being here is I want a Tesla and a duplex. And I was like, me too. But like a Tesla and a duplex, we all want that.
Yeah.
Is it realistic in your first year? Yeah, maybe. But you're living at home with your mom right now. What about like a great starter home? So it's just like it wasn't the way. And with it, you want someone who actually, this sounds kind of like a little strange to say, but if they come onto the team and instead of being like kind of like a burden, if they're bringing something to the table that we aren't already doing, or a different motivation for us to continue to grow, that's what's really perfect. And we had an agent just recently, our newest hire, who came on, and his passion for like the community and the knowledge there, and then also representing folks in the community, it was like, yes. And we had another hire before. He loves the digital marketing of it. He's like in the back end going, hey, Ange, what about this? What about this? Here's another list. Yeah. So it's that proactive movement of allowing us to grow.
Yeah.
I'm growing certain sections of the company, and then we also have to have people that will hold it down for just like kind of the day-to-day operations. Yeah. So when folks come in and they're like, I'm going to be here, you can count on me these days, you will see me. If there's a change in that, I'll let you know. So then I know when I come here on this day, that particular person will be there. I'll have something for them to do, a little something. Mm-hmm. There's always something to do, but maybe like a little refocus. So there's many different things I like to see with folks coming in. There are new people who are like, hey, I'm new. I just got my license. Mm-hmm. If they have a sales background, that helps. And you're interviewing for a sales position. Yeah. So really, there should be kind of at least like 2 years of sales experience, ideally. So those are the main things I like to see. If there is experience in real estate, then we look at their numbers. That's the easiest way to go. We know what your average price point is, the type of transactions you take. That's so much easier to then just start and go with it. Yeah. In the beginning, we're kind of working with work ethic, personality type, work type, and then adjusting from there and getting to have numbers to look at and review.
When you brought up that thing when it comes to the person might be a burden, it reminded me of a story when it comes to my whole situation when I was a fighter. When I switched coaches, now currently my mentor, I approached him wanting a change because I was losing. And I was like, hey, I need to make a change within my whole environment. And he only coached like 5 fighters. He was very particular on who he worked with. And when I approached him, like, I want to be a part of this, like, I need to be challenged, I need to be critiqued. And he was like, I'm going to ask the guys first. And I was like, why? Like the guys already know me. I've known these guys for years. He's like, I want to make sure I'm not bringing poison into the group.
Oh, exactly.
And I was like, ouch. But he knew me because then I had a very, very big ego, and he knew that. Mm-hmm. So he says, I don't want to bring a huge ego into this room. I want to make sure whoever comes in here, they're sponges. They're ready to learn. They're ready to be critiqued, and they're ready to be challenged. So that is very, very important to make sure everybody is sharp and not a burden. So is there a time frame that you kind of keep and hold somebody accountable when it comes to performance or somebody not performing? Is there like a deadline that you have mentally or something that you have on paper that you kind of have principles down? You're like, if this person does not perform for a certain period amount of time, they're almost being a burden.
It's in the contract, it's 90 days. But I'm involved, right? As a person who sees them every day or communicates. So if they're doing the right things and honestly really trying, I can't judge anymore 90 days. This has been an average over the past. So when I started, it was much longer. It was much longer. But before that, it had been, you can do a deal very quickly in the early 2000s. Then it changed into this distressed market inventory and you just couldn't close them as fast. So depending on the market, I adjust. But in paper, in our agreement, in writing, it's a 90-day program. But what I see and hear from day to day, I'm clocking it all.
Yeah.
And then we're having conversations throughout the week separately. If we don't, or I don't see you, we can't. Like you see more potential in someone than they do in themselves. Okay, like dating, right? You're like, this could be good. He could be good. And he's like, so great, but he doesn't have it in him. So like you said, the ego comes in or jealousy or things like that. The number one thing in real estate that is tough for folks is they do well. And then there's this sense of entitlement over everyone else. Hey, we're the same. You close a deal, that deal's done, you're starting over. You don't have any contracts, you're not employed. Our employment contract is a listing agreement, buyer representation agreement. There's lease contracts, certain different other things out there too. Other than that, you're unemployed as an independent contractor. So when the ego comes in, especially of those who have experienced a great market, we love a great market. It's amazing. Yeah. Everyone's doing well. That's what we want to see. When the need for power or ego or I need to be awarded for doing my job, it's so weird, right? We do our job every day and there's like this, I need an award for that. No, you just go finish it up, right? And move on to the next one. You could do it, say nothing. And I think just in general, folks in general, when their ego gets too involved with it, it takes over.
That's like an ugly trait. We talked about traits that we found attractive into somebody, but there's also traits that we just cannot be a part of at all. And an ego, it needs to be used properly. Like athletes, they use their ego when it's necessary to win.
Yes.
And there's a time to shut it off though. Like you can't walk around every single day where your ego's just 110% like, oh, I'm the best. Exactly.
You'll get knocked down.
You need to hone it properly. When there's competition involved, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But have logic within that emotion as well. You know, a lot of people, when they're competitive, they're all emotional. They're all like, I gotta get this guy, I gotta tackle him, I gotta remove him out of my sights, etc. Where's the logic?
Yeah.
Bring logic into the game because that's where you will be successful. And for some odd reason, I feel like you like to study success, right? So in your studying of success, how would you define success?
Freedom.
What does freedom look like to you? For somebody who has been busy for honestly so long, their entire life, what does freedom look like for you?
The other day when I was able to go on a field trip with my daughter's school to San Jose on a bumpy bus ride. They're all coughing. I'm going to get sick from this, car sick. The bus is hot. Yeah. There's a million things going on at the office that, should be going on, but I'm able to do that. Yeah. And that's it right there. Yeah. And a lot of the other moms too that were there are like, we're so blessed that we can do this. Not everyone can. In the past, I couldn't do it. I actually had my child at the same time that I had two companies come together and get incorporated, brand new. It was 2013. Everything happened. I formed the businesses and my child was born, I know the dates on all the docs because it's the same as my daughter's birthday, like the day before. It's all the same.
Yeah.
So for the first 4 months of her being a baby, I wasn't around. I'd get home and she was like asleep.
Yeah.
And she was always in this child care because there was a need for me to be in and things like that. And I had to keep things moving forward. It was new. It was all new. And I actually inherited a team that wasn't mine.
Yeah.
And nowadays it is that to be able to, I'm picking her up today. I couldn't do that in the past. She was in after school care. I can be available for her. And that's number one right there.
I asked Ali Lowe, shout out to Ali Lowe, much love, brother. I asked him that same question, and he said, he didn't know how to answer that. And then he thought about it, and then he said, walking my daughter down that aisle and watching her flourish in life. He's like, that's success to me. So
she's amazing.
What you said is very kind of similar. The process of your daughter growing up, you being there with your daughter, that's freedom. That's success for you.
And she might think I'm weird on the bus, like, why did I wear that or whatever?
When we were kids, we take our parents for granted. And then you get older and you're like, oh my God, these are like my superheroes. It's the craziest thing ever. So I always kind of remind parents, it's like, hey, you guys sacrifice so much. You guys do so much. It's like any parent would. But when a kid grows up and he has that realization, sometimes it's younger, sometimes it's a lot older, but it's a beautiful thing when you recognize the sacrifice that your parents had made for you. But it's also a reminder, do not let that sacrifice go to waste. So my last two questions, Angela Savage, if this was your podcast, High Value Discussions, hosted by you, and if you had a question that you were curious about me, what would it be?
How many women have you had do the interviews for you, the women business owners?
Not a lot. And sometimes when I even ask people to come on, they're like, I have to be something first. I'm like, like, what are you talking about? Like, I see greatness in you already. I just want to document that, because whatever you say that episode, a year later when I interview again, so the game is different. The process is different. Your journey is different because you put in the work. So I feel like people are really shying away sometimes from coming on a show because they feel like they have to be something or build something beautiful and great and outstanding. But it's like, man, why don't you talk about your process? Talk about the beginning phases, and then let's document that to see if you are what you say. If you're going to be a man and a woman of your word. You know, one of my greatest guests on this show, she was actually a woman. Her name is Kathy Chow. She's a senior vice president for a public traded company. And she let me in her house. I've never met her in my life. I didn't even know her. And she treated me like her son.
Aww.
And the value that she gave, insane. I was just like, lady, you don't even know who I am, but you're willing to let me into your home, set up all this production, and interview you? She treated me like her son. And then the value that she passed down for myself and for the audience was beautiful. So I am really trying to drill down and have more women on here.
Yay.
I really am. But it's, like I said, it's very hard.
So you've been reaching out.
Absolutely. But sometimes it's like, I'm not ready yet. Let's wait a little bit. I'm like, I feel like this year, people have it drilled down where it's like, I need to execute. And then when that opportunity comes, when I ask them to preach about your project, preach about your business, brag, talk, show off, they're given an opportunity. Come on and document it. This is literally a form of documentation. Just like when you look back at old pictures, you're like, oh my God, I remember that outfit. Oh my God, my hair was black at this time. Like, it's fun seeing progression. You know?
Okay, yes.
So why not document progression? Like, I remember when I first started this thing, garbage. Like the visual, like literally nothing. Like it was, I would never post that.
Oh.
And then now it's polished because of constant execution and showing up for your craft every day. So when these people come on here, you know, Daniel, I'm in the beginning phases of this, so on and so forth, and it's tough. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm showing up for it. And then 2 years later, I interview them again. Man, we're running this much when it comes to this numbers. We have a full staff now, so on and so forth. It's like, see,
oh, nice.
The form of documentation is so powerful to me. And I just want to have a platform and a source where somebody can come on here and talk.
Yeah, and I think we're never like really where we expect to be.
Yeah.
Or because things are always moving and changing. So you do want to be like kind of at the top of your game when someone interviews you. But that's not every day though. So your listeners and the folks that are listening, maybe your role right now is what they want to do, but they're realizing it's going to take years. And even if you do have a low, it is good to kind of communicate that out, because it's now the reality and the expectation.
Yeah.
It's not all this we're waking up at 5 a.m. just doing deals, working out.
Yeah.
You know, it's the day to day is what has to be consistent. Is good to hear. All the coaches that I use, it was that, and I actually stopped subscribing to some of it because it was like these men, right? And they're great, and I use a lot of the information, but their day and how it starts is not the same as what a mom of 1 or 2 or someone who has grandchildren, their day doesn't start like that. They can't be at the gym at 5 o'clock. Their day doesn't end like that either, and everything in between. So it is important to get that kind of female interpretation of these businesses, of these companies and these markets that are primarily, ours is interesting. It's primarily women who work in the industry, right? But primarily men who own the brokerages.
So when they see somebody like you, that's why it's, for me, interviewing you, it wasn't because of like, oh, to like get more women on here. It's like, oh, it's a priority to like, hopefully people will reach out. It's like, no, I love what Angela's doing. I love Angela, and I want to talk to her and I want to learn from her. And hopefully, I know when women see you on here, it would only inspire them to come on here and talk. And that's what I want. That's exactly what I want. The more, the better. Because I know when people like look up my show, it's like the majority is men, but it's like, guys, that is not my mission here. It's like, I'm trying to talk to and learn from everybody. That's what I want. That's my mission.
I completely understand the no, because I did it. Yes. But they're ready. Actually, they could run circles around some of these guys. Got to tell you, they're more prepared.
Yeah.
And I think that's in it. We want to have it be totally perfect, but it's okay.
Well, Angela, my very, very last question. So you've been so much experience when it comes to leadership, obviously as a mother, somebody who is bringing constant value to the community. What's probably one of the biggest pieces of wisdom that you would want to pass on to the audience?
You can't do everything, and you can't show up for your family or your clients or your colleagues if you're not right in yourself. I've been in very, very dark spaces. And I think for those that maybe have, and it could be certain conditions that are mental or physical. Mine was, I have they're still the same thing, a very addictive personality. I know what changed everything for me was getting sober. And there's so many different aspects of how things have progressed and the ups and the downs, but that changed my life. If I didn't and I progressed in that addiction, I wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have this conversation. I would have been long gone or institutionalized or in prison, right? Because the actions turn into other things. This is alcohol related. There are folks that have, and in this industry, in sales industries and high stress industries, it's common. Alcohol, narcotics, drugs, other things that we get addicted to. So I think at the basis of it all is, if someone does need to talk to someone like that, there's resources out there. There's facilities that will help you. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, we do so much for other people, getting them where they want to go. You have to pull back. Believe me, you can take 3-4 months off to go into treatment. It's okay. People already know. They already know you need it. You think you're hiding it. We do. We're like, yeah, I'm a functioning alcoholic. No, everyone knows already. They're not going to say, hey, it's not like how it used to, where it reflected on the family, right? Now the family appreciates that you'll take that time for yourself get better, however long it takes. You come back and you're still suffering. It's still happening. Even to this day, I'm trying to kick another addiction, nicotine, right? But nowadays, it's not something you have to feel bad for or guilty, or you're spending too much time. You spend 3-4 months, you just added years to your life. I've lost too many friends in this business. I've lost too many friends that I've grown up with, family members, people that I went to treatment in that maybe, they just needed a little bit more time. Lost so many people in this industry specifically. And I can't see it happen anymore. I'm always open to anyone if they want to talk about any of that. Where should I go? What are the first steps? I have. We're very engaged with a lot of people. Your mom and I too, we've helped folks. At the end of the day, we can try our best, but it's up to that individual where they say, this is it. And if you're ready and you say, this is it, you can come to us or whoever, and we can get you the help that you need. And I think, with all the questions and everything too, it was like, it kept coming to mind when we were talking, but I was like, when you were saying you're 20, it was just a different person. And until that happened, life changed. All the relationships. A lot of relationships left because you can't be around certain folks that you used to. And they're still going down that route. I lost family. Half of my family didn't support the direction I was going in. And how I came out, I was a different person that couldn't be manipulated.
Well, that's the biggest flex, is you are a completely different person. And that's the whole point of growing as an individual. You want to be different, not just every year, but every single day. And that's why I admire you. That's why my family admires you. Angela, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope we get to do this again really soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.